Hi everyone, it's Rabbi Genak, and I'm here to share a Lag BaOmer Dvar Torah with you. Lag BaOmer is a day associated with a few things. One of those things is Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai lived following the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, somewhere around the year 100 of the Common Era. And there's a very famous story about Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai that I wanted to share with you. The story is a little bit longer than I'll be able to fit into one video, so I've included a link right down below to the Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. So after you watch the video, please just take a look at that Gemara, read through to get all the details that I've skipped. The Gemara tells of Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai is living in the land of Israel after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. The Romans have destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. They're oppressing the Jewish people. They're killing the rabbis, they're killing men, women, and children across the land. Jews are persecuted and chased throughout. And Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai is having a conversation with one of the other rabbis. And the other rabbi says, the Romans aren't so bad. Look, they built markets, they built roads, they built baths. They're taking care of people. Sure, they're really horrible people in that they destroyed our Beis HaMikdash and they're killing us, but they also do things that are productive. And Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai is not willing to accept that anything that the Roman oppressors do is actually good. And he takes a cynical look at each of those three things, and he says, those three things that you mentioned, you think they do it to advance our society, to take care of the population? Not at all. Why do they build roads? Why do they build bridges? They build roads, they build infrastructure so they can charge taxes, they can charge tolls and enrich the Roman Caesar. Why do they have baths? They don't build baths to take care of the people so that they stay healthy. They build baths as spas so that the elite can live a life of luxury. And why do they build marketplaces? Not so that everybody can compete for good prices. They build marketplaces so that they can send their harlots out to entice all the lads across the country. So there's nothing they do is good. Now, Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai didn't know that eventually his comments were heard by the Roman government. And when the government heard what he was saying about them, they ordered him killed, and he went into hiding. Eventually, he ran away from the city and he hid in a cave. Now, this cave had nothing in it and he had no food, but he and his son hid there, and a miracle happened that God made a tree grow and a spring water sprout, and they lived in this cave for 12 years. They ate the carobs of the tree and they drank the water. And for 12 years, they spent their entire day and their entire night studying together, just Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son. Eventually, they heard that the Caesar had died, and no longer were they responsible for the comments that Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai had made all those years ago. And so Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai leaves the cave, and he looks out, and he sees that how do the Jews, right around the opening to the cave, how are they handling their newfound freedom? They didn't immediately turn to Torah study because now they could study more freely. No. Now the Jews started planting. They immediately went and started planting vineyards and fields so that they could rebuild their wealth. And Shimon Bar Yochai looks at this and he says, "This is horrible. They're leaving the Torah that I've been studying for 12 years, and all they're doing is planting wheat." And as he looks at this scene, everything goes into flames. All the wheat starts to burn, the land gets scorched, and a heavenly voice comes out and says, "You came out of your cave to destroy the land of Israel. Go back into your cave, you're not yet ready." And so Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son return to the cave for one more year, where they decompress. They prepare themselves to re-enter society. So then, after 13 years, one additional year in the cave, they go back out, and Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai is able to look at things in a more positive way. And no longer do they incinerate what they find around them. Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai's son still has some trouble with this, but Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai, together with him, is able to temper their gaze. And finally, as they're walking around the Friday after they leave the cave, they come across a man who's running back home right before Shabbos. And he's holding two myrtle branches. They say to him, "Why are you holding two myrtle branches?" So he says, "Oh, these branches are for the honor of Shabbos." So he said, "Okay, but why do you need two? Why not one?" He says, "I have one for Zachor and one for Shamor. One for the positive mitzvos of Shabbos, making kiddush, having meals, and one for the negative mitzvos, meaning what we pull back from. We don't go to work. We don't do malacha. We don't do activities on Shabbos that are not allowed. One for the positives and one for the negatives." And Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai looks at him and he says, "Oh, look at the Jews. Look how much they love their God. Look how much they're going to run right before Shabbos to get these branches to show how much they love Shabbos." And with that, they were able to accept society as it is. Bekach nacha daita. They were able to re-enter society and look at their peers as people of worth and value. And I just want to point out a theme that we see both at the beginning and the end of the story. Rabi Shimon Bar Yochai originally got in trouble because he looked at the actions of the Romans and he saw through to their motivations. He saw they produce roads, they have baths, they have markets, but he said their motivations are rotten at the core. And the end of the story ends the same way. He sees the Jews, and sometimes they don't act the way he would expect them to. He expects them to spend their whole time learning Torah. He expects them not to at all work their fields. Why would you want to work your field if you can just be supported by a carob tree that's going to sprout next to you? But at the end also he looks at the motivation, and he's able to see that if you look past the actions at their core, those Jews are pure. How much they love their God, how much they love their Shabbos. And this is a message that always is relevant. And I offer it to you today on Lag BaOmer, that we should look at the actions of those around us. Look how much they love Hashem. Look how much they love their Shabbos. And if you want to incorporate just a little bit more, if you buy flowers for Shabbos, do like the man in the story and put two special flowers in, one for Zachor and one for Shomer. Have a wonderful Lag BaOmer and a good Shabbos.